Oh, we got our German friends here. That's pretty early. Our friends from Pakistan, good morning. And also from the anti-doping agency from Thailand. I know you had a big school this morning. To all the school kids, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. I'm Noor Ali Akbar from Pakistan.
Oh, they're so nice. So to all the school kids in Thailand and all the universities in Korea, especially the Martial Arts University, a wonderful good morning to you and thank you for joining. Pearl, wonderful good morning. Thank you for joining. Sawadee krap, hola, shalom, ni hao, assalamu alaikum, guten tag, bonjour, a wonderful good morning, good evening, in the middle of the night to all of you. Today is our second day of the United Through Sport World Virtual Youth Festival 2020. And as the president of United Through Sports, it is my greatest honor to welcome you all to an event made for the use of all abilities from around the world. This festival is about inclusion, non-discrimination, equality, and peace promotion. We believe that everybody deserves the chance on the playing field of life. And let us all remember the decisions we make today will determine our tomorrow. Sport unites. And here we are all equal on the UTS virtual platform. And we are not just connected through the virtual platform, but with united messages and the dreams and hopes for our youth. All the sports which are here today would agree with me. The athletes are the heart and soul of each sport. They are our role models. They reflect our values. We must protect the clean athletes and at the same time have a zero policy tolerance against cheaters of any kind. The fight against doping is a fight for honesty and the fight for all the clean athletes in all sports. We must invest in this. And we already know we all have to perform in and out of competition testing, but we believe that education plays a vital element in the broader fight. Education based on fair play and honesty. Seminars, webinars are very important. And we must educate not just only our athletes, but all stakeholders. And they are very proud today to welcome our representatives from Wada and ITA under the topic of clean sport. Let me introduce you the Vice President of Wada, Ms. Yang Yang, an outstanding Olympic athlete, a multiple Olympic medal winner. I'm very proud. I'm a little bit excited, a bit starstruck to be here with her today. Welcome, Yang Yang. Another Olympian, Olya, Abasolo from ITA, a warm welcome to you this morning, and to Ariadna and Erfle from the Wada family. I will hand over the workshop to Wada and ITA, and once again, thank you to everyone from around the world for joining this morning.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Ariadna and I from Wada will begin, and I'll begin by sharing my screen for our presentation. So bear with me one moment while I do that.
Thank you. And well, Eva sets here everything. As mentioned, my name is Ariadna, and I'm an education coordinator at the World Anti-Doping Agency, Wada. And well, I'm here with my colleague, Eva Erfle.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. I'm over the moon excited about how many participants from the number of countries that are here. It's incredibly exciting. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. And well, just before starting, we just wanted to quickly tell everyone what WADA is. So the World Anti-Doping Agency, we're an international organization that promotes clean sports. So overall, we provide a common set of rules to help athletes to complete clean in all countries and all the sports, all disciplines. And today we are here to talk about values and clean sport and respect.
And you're a key part of today's presentation. So just like you use the chat function to say good morning and say what country you're from, we'd like for you to participate by using the chat function throughout the presentation today. So we're going to practice. We're going to ask you where you think the WADA head office is located. You have 5 choices, and the one we see come up the most in the chat function, we will click on. So please go ahead and share. Do you think it's in Geneva, Switzerland? Do you think the WADA head office is in Tokyo, Japan, in Cape Town, South Africa, in Mexico City, Mexico, or Montreal, Canada? Okay, Geneva, Montreal.
I think Geneva is winning.
Yeah, we have a lot. Oh, Cape Town.
Okay.
And hopefully our accents are throwing you off. Mexico, Montreal, Geneva. Okay, we're gonna try Geneva. No, it's in Montreal. Although we love Geneva as well. All right, let's begin.
Okay, so let's start, and we want to start with a very, let's say simple, but very important question. So you know that at WADA, we love sports, and that's what we do basically every day. But we want to ask you, why do you love sports? Or what is that thing about a sport that you love that make it like it? So take a moment, please, to think about it. And if you can share your answers here in the chat function or share it with your teacher during a classroom. And we're going to see the responses.
I see, because it's fun.
Because it's provides close community, great. Fun and excitement, brings people together. Communication. Okay. Oh, there are many, thank you. It's healthy, empowering, freedom. Well, exactly because of that. So we love we love sports because we love competition. We love the excitement that it brings to everybody. We also love to see the greatest demonstration of strength that sport gives us. We, of course, love the joy that sports give us to athletes, but also to coaches, to families, and to everybody, all of us who enjoy watching the sports. We love the community. Sorry, we love the respect, of course. That we love the community, the friendship. That's something that you mentioned a lot. So exactly because of that. And we love the dedication to achieve excellence. And so many more things. So sport is like this universal connection that brings us together. It's like this thing that we shared. It's like when we are watching a sport or in training, we share something. We are all speaking the same language. No matter where we are from or what our difference might be, sport brings us together. And what underlies all these are values. So let's talk about values.
So what are values? Values are what guide your decisions in life. What you value influences your behavior and ultimately who you are as a person. So for example, if you value health, then you might choose to exercise. If you value service, you might choose to take the dog out for a walk or start a dog walking service in your community. If you value friendship, you might use your cell phone and send some text messages or WeChat or phone a friend. All of these things affect our behavior. So what are your values? It's important to be able to name them so that you can start to identify why you make the decisions that you do. Here is a nice list of values, although it's definitely not a complete list. I'm going to read them out in a moment, and you don't need to share these in the chat function, but you are welcome to if you'd like. That's personal to you, and that's wonderful. So of these values, which ones really resonate with you? And if there are any here that you don't understand, please write them down for yourselves, and you can ask us later, or you can ask your teacher later or a parent. So here we go. Honesty, perseverance, resilience, effort, community, education, health, service, joy, friendship, diversity, kindness, inclusion, equity, respect, fairness. We're going to come back to these values in a moment again, but just consider them while we talk about a few other things. So now what we'd like to do is ask an athlete what their values are. And our athlete, as was introduced before, is Miss Yang Yang, a 3-time Olympian for short track speed skating. She has 2 gold medals. She has a gold medal, 2 silver, and 1 bronze medal, and is a 6-time overall world champion. We are incredibly lucky to have her here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Yang Yang.
Thank you. And actually, you were right. I had 2 gold medals.
Oh, well, there you go. 2 gold medals. So we'd like to ask you a question. We'd like to ask you what some of your core values are and who or what has had the biggest role in shaping them.
Well, there's from the list of the value, actually, many of them I like them. But I would like to say, especially on the field of play, I think respect is very important. Respect yourself, respect others, respect the rules, the referees. That can make you stay on the track and don't make mistakes, which is for your career is very important. And the other value is very important for me on the play field is the honesty, because the same is honest to yourself and to the others, because the honesty you're honest to yourself, then you can improve yourself. You know where's your weakness. You know how to can help yourself, and then you're honest to the others, to your coaches, to your families, which is you can get helps from them. So honest is very important, and to be for you grow up, for you to be better. And of course, excellence and fairness, health, friendship, it's all very important. But on the play field, it's important respect and honest to myself. And the people who help me to in my career, it's the coach is very important, of course. I'm very lucky to have great, wonderful coaches, actually, since I was young. And they always tell me how to be loved in sports and to be honest, of course. And also the family always supporting me, and they always there, no matter where I am, no matter how sometimes I'm in a very difficult situation. So those people are very important to me. Yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful answer, and I love the values that you pointed out, because not only do they connect with sport and what we're going to talk about, clean sport, but they're also just really applicable in day-to-day life, because I know athletes, obviously a main focus is their athletic career, but there's a lot more to athletes than just sport, I'm sure. So it's nice to have values that can transcend into other areas of your life as well. So thank you. And let's talk a little bit about this thing that I mentioned called clean sport. That's kind of what we're all about here at Wada. So Ariadna is going to discuss that with us today.
Yes, so clean sport in essence is that respect that you have for yourself, for the other competitors, and for the rules. So it's about fair competition and supporting athletes' health and well-being. So when we are doing things like shaking hands or bow to your opponents, you are demonstrating respect for others and taking part in clean sport. Also, when you take care of your mind and your body by exercising, by training, by eating, by resting well, you're taking care of yourself and demonstrating respect for yourself. And of course, supporting clean sport too. When you're following the rules, when you're listening to the referee or to the umpire, you're demonstrating respect for the rules, supporting fair competition, and taking part in clean sport too.
So let's check in with our athlete. Ms. Yang, what does clean sport mean to you?
Fairness. It's a very strong words came to my mind, and the fairness for everybody, especially for the clean athletes. So that's why we have to fight against the doping strongly. And also, it is the future of sports, because without without clean sports, there's no future. So that's why we have to protect the clean sports.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
then it comes back again to those values. Ariadna, I'll let you take it away.
Yes, thank you. And it's exactly why we like to, and our mission is to promote clean sport. And at WADA, we even encourage athletes to sign a pledge acknowledging their right to participate in clean sport and commit demonstrating the values associated with clean sport that we have been talking about. So the athlete pledge that you can now see says this: I'm an athlete who has the right to participate in clean sport. I will uphold this right by competing in the spirit of the sport, respecting my competitors, my sport, and all those involved in my sporting endeavors. I will play true. So just as we mentioned before, and as you can see throughout all this presentation and the athlete pledge, clean sport focuses a lot on respect. So now let's talk more about respect.
So there are different kinds of respect. You can have respect for yourself. You can have respect for others. You can have respect for rules and laws. There's also respect for the environment, respect for animals. But today we're going to connect this to sport. And we're really going to focus on this respect for rules. What would sport look like if there weren't any rules? Think about that for a moment and write something in the chat function if you so desire. I like this one, just an actual mess.
Chaos.
Chaos. It would be chaotic. Be people running around everywhere. A zoo. I like that one. People would find ways to cheat, likely. Injuries. That's good. Safety. Yeah. Possibly some fights. So let's think about this a little further. Think about a football match. What if there were no boundary lines? What if there were no size specifications for the net? What if there were no uniforms? Or what if everyone wore the exact same uniform? What if there were no age categories? I see a response in the chat function that says everybody would be very confused. Yes, I think everybody would be very confused if we didn't have these things. And would it be fun Would it be safe? Could everybody be successful? Could everyone be challenged? Likely not. Rules are in place to help make sport fair and safe, and most importantly, fun, which is why most of us started participating in sport in the first place. It's because it's fun. So let's go back to these values.
Let's go back to this list of values, and remember that this is just a list. They are not all the values. This is just something that we have right now. But we would like you to think about an athlete that you admire a lot. One that represents probably your country, your city, or your favorite sport. And we would like you to think, what values would you want them to have in order to support clean sport? So for example, I love to see when the athlete that I admire show respect by acknowledging the strengths of his or her opponent after a great match. Or also, I love soccer or football, and I love to see when my team shows resilience when they are coming back from a game that they were losing and they are giving their best no matter how hard the match was. So what are those values that you want your athlete to have? So think about it, and if you can and you would like to, share it in the chat function too. Okay, so education, respect, honesty.
I see diversity. That one seems important for an international athlete, especially.
Effort, great. Honesty and fairness. Inclusion. Joy, of course. We will also want that athletes have fun and enjoy everything.
And inclusion is pretty important. Without inclusion, I think you'd be competing by yourself.
Exactly. Perseverance and resilience. So yes, there are all these values we will like. It's exactly what clean sport means. And well, so finally, after considering your values and those that you have shared with us about which one you like your athletes to show, will you sign the athlete pledge? Will you encourage your athlete that you admire to sign the athlete pledge? So you can take now the pledge and sharing on your social media. You can use the hashtags playtrue, hashtag clean sport, and share it with Wada low dash. How do you say it, Eva? Sorry.
Underscore. Wada underscore AMA.
AMA. And we would like you to help us to spread the word about clean sport.
Before we go, we have sent an activity for those of you who are in classrooms with teachers. We have sent an activity to them addressed to the teachers that you can do as a follow-up to this. It's an activity about respect. This activity comes from an entire toolkit of values-based activities that was put together by 6 international organizations, Wada being one of those. And we would love for you to try it and adapt it to your own needs. We're big on values-based education and developing values in classrooms. So this is one way that you can help to continue that in your classrooms. And now we would like to hand it off to our friend Olya from the International Testing Agency. Olya will expand on respect for the rules by talking about testing for doping in sport. At WADA, one of the rules that we want athletes to respect is to not use any substances or methods that could negatively affect their health or that go against these values that we've spoken about today. So thank you so much, Olya.
Thank you so much for this introduction. I think it's so appropriate to start with values when we talk about doping control. And I see so much audience participation and everyone saying hello from different countries and different places. So in this time of pandemic, it's so special to be united like this, even if it's virtual, even if we all miss hugging each other and celebrating victories and losses. We can't do so physically, but we can do so together using technology. So thank you so much to my WADA colleagues for this presentation. I will take over from here with a hands-on presentation of doping control. So what a real test looks like. I have all my equipment here, but I just have a few things to cover before we get right into it. So of course, I hope everyone is safe. I hope everyone's healthy. That's the most important part. And I want to say thank you to United Through Sport, to all the organizations that put this festival together. It's really special to be a small part of it with this presentation. So I will start here. This is my beginning of a high performance journey as an athlete. I was a fencer, and this is my first World Championships. I competed at the 2002 Worlds in Turkey, and here I won a bronze medal. So here I'm holding my flowers. You see the photo is not even high definition enough because it was so long ago. But you can see a line here, and you might be wondering what I'm talking about. But this was also the first time that I was subject to doping control. And so 15 years old, super excited, very fresh to high performance sport, really realizing that I can be good at this. And then I get selected for testing. And it was just such an intimidating experience, really stressful for me, and it stayed with me throughout my career. So of course, when I talk about peeing in a cup, I talk about doping control, which we'll look at in a second. But that experience stayed with me from being at my first Worlds to then competing at the Olympic Games. So I went on to represent Canada at the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing. And while it was not the experience that I wanted for myself as an athlete, it took me a long time to accept that I didn't get the result that I wanted. Really, sport built me as a person, and it built my values as a person, which we just talked about earlier today. And this brought me to the job that I love and the career that I have, which I'll talk about in a second. But I shared my first doping control experience here. Miss Yang Yang, maybe I'll ask you here, we were talking a few minutes ago before we went live, you said, I don't even remember the first time I was tested. So Miss Yang Yang, you were probably tested many times throughout your career. Do you have any early memories of that experience?
I think I got my first national title was when I was 15, like your age, you mentioned. I only thing I remember, I was so nervous, and I didn't have any knowledge before I go to the room. So I think it took a long time. Because you know you don't know what to do. There's somebody help you, but they kind of thought you know how to do that. However, I think it's important to have the athletes to be aware before they go to the test, and they know the procedure, and they knew the what's going to happen, and they know there's somebody going to help. So it will be very helpful. But that was 20 years, almost 30 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking back now, it's 18 years ago that I was tested for the first time. But I think no matter the level of the athlete, no matter which country, no matter which sport, we all share that experience saying, wow, that was really stressful and scary when we were tested for the first time. And I can see some people already writing in the chat about their experiences. So if you are a high performance athlete, or maybe you were a coach who was tested, write to us in the chat. I would love to see who has experience with doping control. But even if you are not necessarily planning to go to the next World Championships and you're just joining to get informed already, this is a great first step. And so we hope that this presentation is helpful for you, whatever your goals are, or whatever your role is in the sport community. I love that people are drawing over the presentation. All right. So I will pick it up here and talk a little bit about what I do right now, and then I will give you an overview of the anti-doping system. So behind all those red lines, thank you for erasing them on the back, my admin colleagues. I currently work for the International Testing Agency, and so we do many things. We do work that supports the international federations with running their anti-doping programs. So that can be testing, it can be analysis of samples in collaboration with labs, it can be legal work, it can be some of the back-end computer management of the files of the athletes and their profiles, but we also do education. And so part of my work is to do this type of these types of webinars and these types of sessions to make sure that athletes are informed and more prepared than Miss Yang Yang and I were when we were first tested. But let's look at this. This looks like a lot of acronyms and a lot of things around the athletes. So it's kind of intimidating to look at the larger anti-doping system. And so I put these acronyms here, but I'm going to decode them for you in a second. these are all different parts of the anti-doping system. So there's actually a lot of different stakeholders who work for the athletes, who are in the center, who help them make sure that the rules in anti-doping are followed. So maybe this will be a little bit more helpful. If we look at the little logos here, and you might recognize your National Olympic Committee in here, you might recognize your National Anti-Doping Organization, even your sport federation. So if we look at the light blue circle at the right here, you can see the National Anti-Doping Agencies. So these are the organizations that help in the fight against doping or the fight for clean sport nationally. So they're responsible for your country's efforts. If you look at the light blue on the left, those are your international federations. So they govern clean sport or the fight for clean sport on the international level for a federation. So as an athlete, as a coach, you are between these two organizations, nationally and internationally. But of course, there are many others. So you can see some of them on the screen. Some of them I didn't put up on the screen, but there are labs. There's the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Wada, of course, as the global regulator, ourselves as a service provider helping different co-signatories run their programs. So this is a bit of a complicated landscape to keep in mind. But the reason I wanted to show it to you is because it gives us an idea of really the comprehensive system that exists there to help make sure that no matter what sport you compete in, which country you come from, everybody's held to the same standard and that you're tested the same way and that you're treated the same way in the anti-doping system. All right. So I think we can get to the doping control here. But before we do, I want to ask you this question in the chat. Why do athletes get tested? So it can be a general response to follow the rules, or it can be something more specific. Why do you think athletes get tested for doping control? I can see here already a response, fair play. So of course, to follow the rules, to make sure that the athletes adhere to the rules, to ensure a level playing field, exactly to Eva's point about having rules on the field of play, to check if they're healthy. And so we can think about this two ways. We can think about catching the cheaters, but we can also think about the opportunity that is given to the athlete to show that they're clean, to show that they're competing fair. So for me, when I was selected for doping control, I was proud because I could show that I was good enough to be selected for doping control, but also that I was a clean athlete. So kind of the two perspectives here to keep in mind as we think about why athletes get tested. Before we begin, I wanted to put up this barcode, or this QR code, I'm sorry, on your screen. I know that there are people from all different parts of the world who speak all different languages. So perhaps if English is not your first language, you can scan this QR code. And I know that you, some of you who are in schools would have received the stickers that have the same QR code. I encourage you to scan it. So it's very easy. You can open the camera function on your phone and then just point it at your screen, and you will be able to view the key steps of the doping control process in these languages that are listed here. So even if English is not your first language, you can follow along because some of the terminology may be not too familiar, and I hope that makes it a little bit more accessible for you as you follow along with doping control. So I will give you a second to scan this QR code, and then we're going to get right into the demonstration. Okay, so we talked about the landscape, we talked about the rules, we talked about values, but I am gonna stop the presentation right now and we're gonna get into the actual demo. And I've switched my camera now so you can see it here, and I'm gonna stop the presentation. So here we have everything ready for the demonstration of the urine sample collection. Now, we have a few schools that are with us today. So this is the time to bring out those kits that you received. If you have some water, this is tea, it's not real pee. So if you have tea, juice, water that you want to prepare now to follow along. And for everyone else watching, I think it's just a good either refresher if you're familiar with doping control, or a good introduction to what doping control really looks like. So these are kits that are used for education. So here it says for education purposes only, but of course they are exactly the same as the real kits that you would be using in doping control. So we're going to go step by step, and I'll put this aside for now. The first thing you do as an athlete, and I'm going to show all of this to you here with the camera, but if you were an athlete, you are doing all of this. So the doping control officer will take you step by step through the process, but they don't participate, they don't touch any of the equipment. So you do everything here that I will be demonstrating. So the first thing you do as an athlete, you choose your sample collection vessel. So here you go. This one is a manufacturer that is used at many competitions, but you could also have different types of equipment. So they may look different. This is one example. So the first thing you do is you check to make sure that everything is sealed. And you will always have 3 choices of these. So let's say as an athlete, I chose this one. It looks good to me. And you can see it's closed. So then you say, okay, this one is good for me. I will open it. So there's a plastic tear. Go like so. And you can see the numbers. We will take out the cup without touching the inside of it. Right here. Take out the cap without touching the inside of it. Leave it like that. And we provide the sample. Now, the good part today is that we will not go through the actual process of providing the sample. You can imagine how that's done. And we assume that this is our sample right here from our sample collection vessel. So normally you would provide it here. You have to make sure that you have at least 90 milliliters. Now there's a little marker here on this cup, which is a little bit hard to see with the video, but if we use another one, you can see the 90 milliliters quite clearly. So this is how much pee you have to give for urine sample collection during doping control. Okay, so here, we've given our sample, which is usually the hardest part because you have to pee in front of a stranger. So once you've done that, really you're cruising. And then we have to make sure that when it gets to the lab, it's shipped securely. So this is what this second kit is used for. So we put this aside for a second and we select the kit. We will always have a choice of 3 kits, at least 3 kits as well as an athlete being tested. So let's say I chose my kit. It's also, you can see it's shiny, so it's sealed in plastic. And I'm going to open it here. So one thing you will notice on this kit is that there's a barcode with numbers on it. Now, because this is an educational kit, the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's just an educational kit, but they will all be different numbers. So the first thing you will do is check that the number on the box matches the numbers on the bottle. So I guess the schools are following along now. Everyone who's got these kits with them, you can do the same thing that I'm doing. Maybe you can designate a responsible person to do the demo and somebody else watching to make sure that everything is done correctly. But as you take out these bottles, you will see numbers at the top. It says test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You will see the numbers on the front. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You check, everything matches, we are good to go. Now this is important because a lab does not see an athlete's name. They do not see an athlete's country. They only see the numbers on the bottles. So that's used to identify your sample. So it's very important that you check that. These are some instructions. We'll leave them here on the side. And we're going to open these bottles. You can see there's always a protective seal. So we take out the cap. This ring is there to make sure that the bottle doesn't get closed. So we can remove it because we will be sealing the sample. I can see here some questions coming in, and I'm sorry if I don't get to answer all the technical questions today, but I will display an email address at the end of the presentation so that if you want to reach us with some of these questions, you can. But at the end, I will try to go through the chat and see if I catch some of those questions. There's just a lot of conversations coming in, which is fantastic. So I might miss those questions. Okay, so here, we're gonna move these rings. These are our 2 bottles. And if you know why there's an A and a B sample, maybe you can write it in the chat why there are actually 2 bottles. I don't know if anyone has any ideas. As I'm gonna put the sample into these containers, you can write it in the chat. Okay, so this is all done by the athlete. Normally there's a protective seal that would be on the cup that you take off. Here it's already taken off. And the bottles have little markers as to how much urine you put in each of the little bottles. The B only has 30 milliliters and the A has 60. So I can see here reference sample backup. And there's a question coming in, so I'm sorry if I'm missing the questions. I'll try to go back at the end of the presentation and answer them. But let's see if anyone else has any idea why we have these 2 bottles as I put the sample in them. We always start with the blue. This is our B sample. I'm going to try not to spill. Always the fear of all the athletes is that you spill the sample. So we go just above the line. That looks about right. This is the most intrusive process for an athlete. You're with a stranger, putting your pee in different glass bottles. Not the most comfortable process, but that's part of the system. And that's how we keep our sport on a level playing field. So we put the rest of the sample in A. You will see that it's 60 milliliters, so double the B. So here you go. If you have a little bit extra left over, you always put it back into the B. Here we go. And so these cups are always designed in a way that when you remove this lid, you can then test for specific gravity. What that means is that the sample that's going to the lab is not too diluted, especially in weight category sports like Muay Thai, boxing. You will have athletes who are trying to make weight and then they drink a lot of water. It's simply to make sure that we are able to analyze the sample. So this would be done by the doping control officer. Okay, so let's put this away. So I saw some of the answers come through about why there are 2 bottles. And the answer is because one will go to the lab and get tested, and the second one will get stored. So in case there's a positive, an athlete can request the B sample to be retested. And sometimes you would have seen news of major games where samples get retested a few years after. New technology comes out in anti-doping, so the samples are always stored for retesting. Okay, so now we have enough urine. We assume that it's not too diluted, it's good enough to be tested. The fun part is locking these. So once we start twisting this cap, we can no longer open it. So the athlete would do this, and they close. Until you hear no more clicks. Make sure that it's not spilling out. I just want to make sure it doesn't fall. No more. Here we go. So now our samples are sealed. You can test, these don't break. So, you know, you've had athletes who try to break them, drop them. I will wake up my neighbors. It's 4 o'clock in the morning here in Lausanne, so I will not do that. But, you know, these are very secure containers that will not break. And then that's the last part, is that we put them in little plastic bags, like so. This is for transportation. We pack them away. And I can see as I'm answering, I'll try to answer questions as I'm doing this. The regulations are the same for youth, for minors, and for adults. But what's really important is that if you are a minor being tested, so under 18, you can have a representative with you, a parent, a coach. In fact, an adult athlete can have a representative as well, but we really encourage for youth athletes for someone to be there with them. So the test is being done the same way, no matter what age you are. But of course, it's very important that somebody's there accompanying the athlete. Okay. So here you go. We've done our urine sample collection. So anyone listening from schools that have these kits with them, I hope you were able to complete the process with water, juice, whatever you have available. The last thing you do as an athlete here is you always check these numbers. And you check that the numbers you see on the bottles and on the box match the doping control form. Now, maybe I'll pull up one as an example. This is a paper form. You can have a paper form. We don't go into in too much detail, but it's to give you an idea. And there are now digital forms that will be done on a tablet. So if you're an athlete that's subject to doping control, it can be either paper or tablet. Regardless of the format, you always have to make sure that the numbers are correct. Pack it up. Tight fit. Here we go. And this is our urine sample collection. So that was the process here. I'm going to switch back to my camera so you can see me. There you go. Excellent. So, Ms. Yang Yang, you've been following along as well. Is this the first time that you saw a urine sample collection with tea? The first educational?
Yes, it is the first time, but it's great to watch all the process. I wish I can have this 25 years ago. Then I will be more prepared for the athletes and even for the entourage, because it is important to know all the procedure, especially with checking the numbers, match the numbers, and it's another way to protect themselves. It's very important.
Exactly, and I couldn't agree with you more. I wish I knew this when I was an athlete. I just followed the process and it was fine. I did okay. I did what I had to do, but I wish I knew all these details, and I wish I felt comfortable enough to ask all those questions, which of course I could. So to everyone who followed along and did it with us, good job. Everyone watching, thank you for your attention as you participated in this interactive demo. And you are now joining some of these high performance athletes as having done your first urine sample collection with apple juice or tea. So good job. We've talked about rights and responsibilities a little bit indirectly when we talked about values. But here, as we have now seen the doping control process, I want to bring this topic back, and I'm going to make sure that I see the chat as I'm speaking to you, because I want to see your answers to what do you think some of the athletes' responsibilities are in the anti-doping system, but also in doping control process particularly. So maybe you can type it in the chat, which, oh, I don't want to show it to you just yet. Let me see, for some reason, I can't see the chat function, but I want to make sure that I see it so I can speak to you. Excellent, now it's back. Okay, so athletes have many responsibilities, but they also have many rights. If we start with the athlete responsibilities, that's the first one that comes right back to values. We have to know and follow the rules. And it's the same in any system that we, or any part of the society that we're in. So when we're driving, we're responsible to knowing what the speed limit is. And the same way when we are a high performance athlete, we're responsible for knowing what the rules are in the sport. That includes field of play, uniform scoring, but that also includes the anti-doping rules. The second responsibility of an athlete is to take responsibility for their body. That means you are responsible for what you drink, for what you eat, the medications that you take, the creams that you apply, And you don't need to be subject to doping control to have that responsibility as an athlete. So of course, that's a very important part of doping control, to make sure that you don't take anything that is prohibited, but it applies to any athlete in general. High performance, community, club level, doesn't matter. Specific to doping control, it is very important that you inform medical professionals of your obligations as an athlete. So even if you're going to the dentist, you have to tell them that you're a high performance athlete, because they can give you medication that could be prohibited. And finally, cooperation is key for all of us. So you saw that map with many stakeholders. They exist to protect you. They exist to make sure that you compete on a fair and clean field of play. So of course, we have to cooperate with those organizations. Okay, what are some of the athlete rights? And I put the source of the rights that you're going to see on the screen in a second. So maybe that gives us a little hint. But maybe Ms. Yang, you're familiar with the Athletes Anti-Doping Rights Act very much, I'm sure. So you know what some of these athlete rights are. I can see you nodding your head, exactly. So athletes have many rights in the doping control process and in the anti-doping system. WADA now has an Athletes Anti-Doping Rights Act that summarizes some of these key rights of the athletes. And of course, we always come back to equality of opportunity in sport and the pursuit of excellence in your sport. And these are some of the other ones. There are many more athlete rights that are a journal for the anti-doping system, but then there are also rights for athletes as it relates specifically to doping control. So for example, one of the questions in the chat was, is it different for youth? Is it different for senior athletes? In fact, the process is the same, but you have a right to have somebody accompany you, your parent, your coach. You have a right to have a translator. You have a right to ask questions, which is not a right that I was familiar with. When I was 15 years old, I just followed the process and did what I was told. But in fact, I could ask, why do I have 2 bottles? Why the numbers on the form, etc. So you have the right to ask questions. You have the right to make comments. So it's important that you know these rights as you pursue your future endeavors in sport. So thank you for the art, everyone who's participating. You can see it on the screen. As we have so many comments coming in the chat, I probably won't be able to answer all the questions, but here's our email address. So feel free to write to us with anything specific related to anti-doping or any general comments or thoughts. We'd be happy to get back to you. But that wraps up our presentation of the doping control. And before I hand it over to our colleagues in ETS, Ms. Yang, I will ask you one final question. As we navigate this complex environment of anti-doping and clean sport, do you have any advice for the next generation of athletes or for the coaches and administrators tuning in today as to how to successfully navigate it?
I think today the education, the everything you showed us is very important, and as an athlete, we should be proud to be tested because that's the contribution to clean sports, and also for the coaches and entourage, you should. We also need to learn how to support the athlete in the right way, and then that's a teamwork. It's not only athlete responsibility or our job to fight against doping. It's we all together and to protect our sports, to protect our athletes. So come to the tips. I think as education is very, very important, and we need to learn more about knowledge. The knowledge always make us strong. Can make us very strong, and no mistakes for the future, and then it can achieve your dreams. I come to very details with the tips, and the athlete always has to be ready for the test. And as from my own experience in the big competition, I always prepare for the test, and even keep keep not going to the bathroom too much. You will test. However, it is thank you very much for the presentation, and also thank you very much for the organizer for the United Through Sports and to organize such great events. And I also learned a lot through this presentation. And again, I want to even emphasize that thanks for all the participants from the internet. And it is important. Without you guys, our dream cannot be true for the future. So thank you for this opportunity. I hope.
That's excellent. Thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think those are perfect concluding words from Ms. Yang Yang. I also want to say thank you to everyone who was participating and asking questions. And it was my pleasure to share a little bit of information with you. We hope that you take it back to your clubs, to your sport communities, that you get your athletes informed, that you get your youth informed to make sure that they are empowered in their clean sport journey. So thank you to all the organizers of this fantastic event for having us. I think I share this feeling with my Wada colleagues that we're all very excited to be here, and we're very grateful to be able to spend this time with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So a big thank you. I think we should give a virtual clap to Ms. Yang Yang, to Olya, to Ariadna and Eva. I think that was a fantastic workshop. I think what we have learned here today, and Nagura-san from World Karate Federation and all the other martial artists like me, that we rather lose in honesty than win in dishonesty. I think this is the most important part of our sport. And I would like to thank each and everyone. And the seminar is open not just for the athletes. I have seen little Kira here from Singapore, from UIPM. She's 11 years old. And if you have not gone yet through the UTS Instagram or Facebook, I encourage you to watch Kiara's wonderful message for this festival, one which really inspired me. And I have to be honest, I watched it many times because her words really sum it all up. So Kiara, good luck for the competition coming up. Go and get them. And to everyone else, a big thank you. What I would like to ask you all is, go on social media, go on ITA and Wada, Facebook, on their Instagram, and leave a message behind that you enjoyed this workshop this morning. Make sure that you maybe leave messages like we are united through clean sport, say no to doping, keep sport real. I know this is the ITA message. We are united through play through. Maybe just some ideas. Go on there and make your voice known that we stand united for clean athletes and clean sport and to keep our sport real. So a big thank you. I would like to give you the numbers. Yesterday, I just got the final number. We had 2,097 participants. And all I can tell you now is you have beaten this number. So we had a bigger number this morning. So, and therefore I like to encourage you one more time to join the next workshop in just 45 minutes. The IPC is doing an amazing workshop under the theme, I'm possible. So we are all possible. And I think let's go and also support our friends from the International Paralympic Committee in 45 minutes. So please come back and support one more time. So one more time, a big thank you to Ms. Yang Yang, to Olya, to Ariadna and Eva for a fantastic workshop this morning. And I would not do my job right to the United Through Sports team, chaired by Julia, our CEO, which really put this all together. I'm just doing speeches. That's all I do. So I don't want to take the credit. So a big thank you. And thank you to Wada and ITA. Thank you to every participant. And we see you in 45 minutes. Thank you.